Weekly Scrap. Number 19, Firehouse Vigilance, Corley Moore here. This week we have Matt Adkins coming on to talk about full alarm, fire training, Millenials, his rants on training, his philosophies on training, everything else. Hope you enjoy it. Weekly Scrap, number 19, Firehouse Vigilance. Thanks for coming.
Well, Matt, thank you for coming on, being the guest on Weekly Scrap number 19.
Oh, thanks for having me. Can you hear me all right, by the way?
I hear you great.
Right.
Same for you?
Yeah.
Perfect. I met Matt in Portland, Oregon earlier this year, and I got to enjoy a beer and listen to him tell stories and bust a gut laughing at points. It was good times, but there's one thing he has, and it's a passion for the fire service. So I will let Matt kind of just introduce himself, talk about full alarm fire training and where it came from, and we'll go from there, and I'll ask you questions, and we'll have a good time talking about the fire service.
Sounds good. He kind of touched on. My name's Matt Adkins. I'm originally from Southeast Pennsylvania, small city called Allentown, not too far from Philadelphia. Got involved in the fire service a little later, I think, than a lot of people. I was kind of tried the college thing, wasn't my thing. Came home, and I was working a day job in the volunteer fire department, was seeking applications. I didn't know anything. I thought maybe I had to have a college degree or something to be a firefighter. So, but I stopped in, and pretty much right away I was hooked. Fast forward, almost 9 years later, and now I'm working a dream job. I made it kind of became a dream to make a career out of it.
Sweet.
And I was fortunate enough, just kind of, I think came in contact with enough people to learn how to, pursue that dream. So here I am. I work for the city of Danville, Virginia. I've been here since 2015. Smaller city, right on the Virginia-North Carolina border, South Central Virginia, where we have 7 fully career departments, seven stations, 7 staffed engine companies, a truck company. We have a regional hazmat team, a technical rescue team. So it's cool. It kind of has that small town vibe, but also it doesn't feel too small. So it still keeps it interesting. Stay busy. No transport EMS. Which is that's an attracting factor for some people that want to come and just ride a fire truck for sure.
Sure.
And then you had mentioned full alarm, and full alarm. I'm just one small piece of that. There's 2 other partners. I just happen to be the loudmouth that does the most talking. And that actually just started that's really just kind of a grassroots platform to bring outside training into our area. None of us feel like we have all the answers or any of the answers. And it's not, I think maybe some people have misinterpreted it as these guys trying to, just train everyone. And that's really not the case. It's just when we came down here, there's a lot of really great classes going on kind of all over the country. And don't get me wrong, there's been times in the past when other firefighters in the department they've brought other instructors in years past, but there was no official platform. It was kind of like if the city wasn't on board and one of the county volunteer departments wasn't on board, then there was no way to get that ball rolling. So that's kind of that we wanted to build that infrastructure that if we wanted to bring the nozzle forward, it really actually kind of manifested over trying to get the 350 line in. That's kind of what we had first started talking about, and then things didn't pan out. That was 2017 into early 2018. It just didn't quite work out. But we're going on. We're going into our second year of organization, and it's exciting to see what we have moving in the future. So
No, I love going to your page and seeing the stuff you guys post, the videos you share, the articles. Of course, you're a huge proponent of functional fire training, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that. But you're also I'll just touch on your rant, the recent rant, which you let me have the honor of publishing on Firehouse Vigilance. You addressed a lot of naysayers in the rant. It was great. It wasn't chin check, but it was very, you have opinions and you're not afraid to share them. And you wrapped it up with, I love the way you wrapped it up. You said sweat equity. And then, of course, Brad Clark, send it.
Yeah.
And, dude, that's just, it encapsulates so much the way you wrapped up that rant.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that a lot of it is like the nozzle forward program. You talked about the rant. A
Yeah.
lot of it's based off
Absolutely.
nozzle forward, but you step into that, you crawl before you run and all that. So go ahead and talk about functional training and the rant. So
Yeah. So, I mean, first off, the sweat equity, anyone who's taken an Aaron's nozzle forward program, I can't, I mean, that's Aaron Fields through and through, but I think it just absolutely penetrates through the fire service. I don't think anything really in this job should just be handed down, and we have to earn it. And if that's ability to stretch a line, we have to earn that ability. It's not just going to come to us. The rant was, we had done this class, and sorry, I'm fixing this so I can hear myself talk too. I went up to the Richmond area, did the nozzle forward. I've seen Aaron present before, but I've talked to him multiple times on the phone. I never had the opportunity to do the full program, and
sure.
So finally it came to Richmond, and I was able to get in, which is like, sometimes it's like buying lottery, or like buying concert tickets. You're waiting.
There's no doubt. Yes.
And so I was finally able to get in, and it was cool because I got to go through it with a buddy of mine who I went through the academy with here in Danville. And we really hit it off. We actually rode the same engine company together for a couple years, and he left for a different department. And he was in the class, so it was cool because it was kind of like a homecoming for both of us to be able to hang out and get on the line. He was actually in that push video.
Okay.
He's the heel in the push video, so it was really cool getting to do that. And so, after the class, man, you walk away pumped, right?
Sure.
And as with anything that is profound and kind of new, I don't want to say new because it's not new, but anything that's new to a group of people, there's skepticism involved, obviously. And don't get me wrong, I'm fortunate to work for a department. It's overall, it's an aggressive department. 40 square miles with 7 engine companies. So usually we have multiple companies arriving pretty close to each other. My second dude's riding our tailboard in most of the time.
Okay.
It feels like. So we have the ability to be a pretty aggressive fire department. And I kind of mentioned this in a presentation I did in Portland the year before, but that's great. But it also kind of gives naysayers like somewhat of a golden ticket,
Sure.
because it's very difficult to inspire change when it kind of seems like what we're doing is working. But I think really where that came from was, you have a lot of guys here, and I don't want to just say here because it's everywhere, that say, clear, skeptics of the 2.5, and that's really where that rant came from. I'm a proponent of it. It stinks, it's cumbersome, it's heavy, but it can get a lot of work done, and it has to be used in the right application. we're not stretching this into an 800 square foot house, you know what I mean? But, we have standpipe stretches here in the city. We have the possibility to potentially to go to a fire where the 2.5 really would be, I think, the game-changing play to
Sure.
make there. And it's we're kind of sitting at the mentality of, well, that's going to be a defensive line. And I think that's where that rant came from. And actually, I don't know if you followed it, but I started it off really sarcastic. Not initially, but I go back and I edit my stuff, and I started off real sarcastic, and I think I instigated a little bit. And again, you come back from this class and you're pumped, and you just want to, you're wrong, and that's not. Sometimes you have to stew on that for a little while and say, okay, well, maybe I can dial it back, and and that's when I said, okay, well, let me get the context involved here. Super long, 100 people probably never read it, and they just said, well, I don't, all they saw was that we didn't have air packs on, and oh well, they
Sure.
weren't out there for what's that class, 24 hours, or they weren't out there, sweating like we were, and it was a welcome break to finally get to take your turnout. I tried to explain to them that the reason that there's no good video of us with turnout gear and air packs on is because when we were in the burn building dumping 1 million gallons of water. There's one video, I think it was John Spanbauer, did like a little live video walk around, and I happened to notice a clip of me feeding hose up a stairwell sitting right under like the drain hole in the burn building, just like standing under a waterfall. And I think that's like that right there. If there's anyone who wants to know why we didn't have our phones out filming inside the burn building, that's it right there.
Yeah, a little bit of humidity for them phones.
Yeah, a little bit. But anyway, I kind of rambled. Did that answer your question?
Oh, absolutely, man.
Okay.
I think the final version of it, I mean, I know Man, there's so many times when someone says something on social media and I
Uh-huh.
immediately hit the keyboard. I'm like, oh, I'm going to light this guy up. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
I invariably end up getting it out and deleting it, and it never hits the board because I don't,
Yeah.
you just can't engage. So I understand the mentality of firing. But
Yeah.
then actually the final product of your rant was, I thought very great tone. Jared
Well,
Sergi,
I appreciate it.
welcome, brother. Sorry. He said, what up, dudes?
Cap, how's
Uh,
it going, Cap?
and yes, I thought the rant. Of course, you know I'm a fan of it because I asked to publish it, and it
Yeah.
made a
Yeah.
great article. So, um,
I appreciate it.
moving from that, back in July, you wrote another piece that was I thought it was just spot on, and that was I'm a millennial firefighter and I'm
Oh
offended.
boy.
Yeah, so
There's
that one.
finally a face that I'm gonna get so much hate mail. I'll put look, do me a favor and at least just include my email address so hate mail can just come right to me. And that was a polarizing move. But I know. I mean, do you have questions about it, or
I just generally obviously it answers all the questions itself. If you go and read the letter, in fact, if you guys go to Full Alarm Fire Training, you can find it if you scroll to about early July of this year. You can find the actual post and read it. I should have printed it out so I could read it right here on the scrap. But just basically you talking about the frustration of where it came from and some of the responses you've gotten to it, the
oh yeah,
impact it's had. So
yeah. It was fun. My wife, fiance at the time, had to like constantly reel me in and be like, "Stop reading the comments." Like, and then I think Train Your Proby or someone on Instagram like reshared it, and that was just like, I mean,
fuel to the
they have
fire.
thousands of followers. So, um, yeah, the thing that I think was a lost on a lot of people was the whole offended thing. I intended it to be kind of tongue in cheek. As a
Sure.
millennial, we're always the target of, oh, you kids are so offended by everything, and so that was intended to be sarcastic, and that maybe blew over some people's heads, or maybe it just wasn't a good joke. I don't know. But yeah, it was kind of one of those things. It's like, okay, maybe we are offended, but not for the reasons that you think we are. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I'm not offended that you talk down to me. It is what it is. I mean, it's a hierarchy culture, and I understand that. But I'm offended when you talk down to me, but you bring nothing to the table.
Exactly.
And I think there's absolutely no one that wasn't pointed at anyone. And as a
Sure.
matter of fact, I had a couple guys at work kind of be like, "Oh, really, dude?" And I have people sending me messages on Facebook all the time, like, "Hey, I'm experiencing this at work or at my volunteer department. What do you recommend?" And consciously or not, I guess you just kind of compile all these other issues that other people are going through. And I think that piece was really more just an observation of what it seems like my peers across the fire service
Right.
spectrum are experiencing. So,
Just what you're plugged into.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, some people I think maybe took it a little closer to heart than I ever intended, but I do not to, I don't want to downplay it too much because I think it is an important conversation to have.
Oh, absolutely. That's why I think that's why it
Yeah.
resonated so well. Is not just the polarizing side of it. There's a lot of people who felt that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
My little brother included. He's 15 years my younger, and so he's right smack dab in the middle of that millennial generation and gets all those labels. And I know it frustrates him to no end. We've had many conversations about it. It's
Yeah.
much. I mean, you encapsulated a generation's in the fire service frustrations in that letter, and so that very tongue-in-cheek letter that I think, like you said, shot over a lot of people's heads.
Yeah.
So
I'm glad you thought. I'm glad you thought that. I hope I didn't put words in any other millennials' mouths. It's I should have put a little disclaimer. These words are
mine alone.
until just now. That was only on Full Alarm. So now the world knows that I'm the one that wrote it, which is actually good because I'd rather carry that burden than the other two guys who were just collateral damage in that whole thing. They were like, dude, really? I think Trevor texted me like 15 minutes into it. He's like, you just broke the internet with that. And I was like, yeah, man. Sorry. No, change your mailing address or something.
So I got questions for you here. What do you see right now as the biggest obstacles facing the modern fire service? Just to throw you a very broad question you can take in any direction you want.
Wow. Yeah, you could go so many different directions with that. I think the biggest problem that we're facing with the fire service right now is we're trying to we're trying to just sterilize and pasteurize everything down into this like just neat, like, I don't know how best to explain. We're trying to take this incredibly dynamic fire service and jam it down to this really neat, tangible ball. Whether it's training curriculums, trying to just standardize training curriculums, and instead of having, and I mean, it's a whole different conversation, but, just trying to, I'll say over standardize training curriculums into this like little ball and over standardize expectations of departments and I think that's what that's doing is that it's diluting the kind of, I think, like that shining essence of the fire service. And then while it's also doing that, it's creating these like fringe arguments that's just like pulling at it from all different directions. And we get good progress that comes out of that, but then we also get, division. And that's not good either. You know what I mean?
And I think the social media exacerbates it with the
oh my gosh, yeah. Well, that's the world.
Yeah, we are the microcosm of the world. The fire service is the microcosm.
That's very true.
Dude, I love that breakdown of trying to put everything in a tiny little box and say, here you go, this is the fire service right now.
Right.
Yes. No, and like you said.
Yeah, I feel like it's being pushed on firefighters by maybe I don't want to say non-firefighters, but it's being pushed on the grunts. And I mean that's you get that in all kinds of different service industries, but it's I think a lot of people perceive that it's being pushed on us by people who aren't standing in our shoes right now.
Like it's coming down from corporate, whatever that may be in the fire service. Yes.
Exactly. Yep.
Dude, I love that analogy. Mm-hmm. That is tight. Training. Of course, you're a big proponent of functional training. What do you see as the biggest obstacles towards training right now?
Ooh, liability.
Let me. Okay, liability. Okay, sorry. I was
going to say
effective training.
I
was going to clarify and say for effective training, but I think it still applies.
I think liability just it makes it difficult. It's you've always had people who don't want to train. Like you're always going to have. I think those things are kind of. And I can't say that they're constants because I haven't been around the fire service for 20 years. But just looking, I mean, Andy Fredericks wrote about the turds too. So
right.
I think that's been kind of a constant. But I think this day and age, I mean, liability more than anything else. Actually, we started the LLC purely for liability management. And now you look at like what OJ is doing, working with the Pompier ladder or the scaling ladder and stuff. And I mean, they're like, it almost seems like they can't get everything done that they want to do because they have all these liability check marks that they have to make sure we have the
hoops.
All these hoops to jump through. And that's just one example. But
sure.
Maybe that's not the biggest one, but to me, that's from my perspective, that's a glaringly obvious one.
No, it applies to everything. Realistic fire training. How do you do it in Class A buildings Type 1 buildings, Class A fuels? When that's not what we fight, and how do you prepare people? But and that goes right to your point of liability. Mm-hmm. And so
I think that's the seed that grows a lot of those other problems. You know what I mean? Like I could say, well, the problem is that we don't fight, like you said, we don't fight fire train and acquired structures anymore. That is a problem. But again, I think all this stuff can kind of boil down to that little liability seed.
No, that really does. You pointed that little seed. I'm trying to think of any other questions I wanted to throw your way, curveball wise. Of course, I always ask the guest if they have a book they want to suggest to firefighters. So do you have a book that you think firefighters should read?
Yeah, it's cliche. I don't know if it's cliche or not, but I mean, Pride and Ownership. I'm sure you've heard that 1,000 times. But
I don't think any guest has suggested it yet. I love the book.
Really?
Lasky and Salka, yes.
Yeah. I mean, that's I got that book very early on in my career, and I think that really served as like a directing. It kind of gave me some guidance. I think that's huge, especially now in a day and age when mentorship is suffering in some aspects, especially like some of that like senior guidance, senior mentorship. So there's a lot of that kind of in that book. I think that's a great book. I definitely recommend it if I ever have an opportunity to work in like a training department or something like that. I would love to be able to present new recruits that book as a reading assignment list. I think it should be on a promotional reading assignment list. I really do.
No, I agree with
It
you 100%.
addresses, yeah. I think it's a great book.
It's on our lieutenants. There's 4
Very
books they
good.
can choose from, but it's one of the ones
Very
they can
good.
choose from to do a
Very
report
good.
on in our lieutenants in our department.
Yeah.
So we love it. It made a huge impact on my career.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Especially you can't have traditions unless you make traditions. The
Right.
retirement parties
Mhm.
and
Yep.
rookie graduations and things like that. That really did impact me to
Yep.
where retirement parties are now a much bigger deal.
Oh yeah.
So that book has had a massive impact on my
Mhm.
life. Now we
Absolutely.
got a question here that says, "Why do you believe?" Oh, I lost the question. Why do you believe that mentorship is suffering in the present? From Maddie Ice Light.
I mean, that's a good question, and maybe I spoke out of turn with that. I feel that maybe it's not so much that it is suffering, but maybe it's just that we're so connected now on social media that we have access to other people's opinions who are do feel like they're suffering. So it kind of, I think, maybe exacerbates our opinion of it. But I feel like there is, in some aspects, that we don't see quite that degree of like, come on here, let me put you under my wing, and I'm gonna put you on my shoulders, and we're gonna lead you in the direction of how to be, how to excel in this career. And I mean, that's just kind of my observation, and hopefully that whoever's asking the question, hopefully that you're asking that because that's not your experience, and
Sure.
that's great.
No, I'm blessed. I'm
Yeah.
blessed in my career to have great mentors. I mean, I really.
Yeah. Oh,
But
I
I
have
feel like
too. I
I
have
feel
too.
like I'm an exception, and I don't know
Mhm.
if that's true or if that's perceived because of the disconnection of social media sometimes.
Yeah, and
And so
that's exactly.
but that is a good question. Who else
Yeah,
does
it's
anybody
great.
else have questions? Bum, 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 bum. Always want to give them a chance. Not the best at working technology. It's one of my caveats I always tell the viewers and my guests is I'd rather stretch hose than use
Yes, sir.
technology. But the
The
Mission
Mission, the
Men and
Men and
Me,
Me. Yeah,
that's a suggested book. Or
yeah.
no, that is a great one. I mean, I've seen his was it Fire X Talk. He was one of the originals, wasn't he?
Cody.
And he came on and did the Mission Men and Me.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, yeah. He was one of. I mean, I don't know if he was. I know he did it very early. He was one of the first videos I discovered.
Right now, yeah,
With the
I'm the
whole
same with
Fire
you.
X thing. And then I got to see him, and actually I bumped into him afterwards, and got to sit down and kind of drink a beer with him and Grant. But we got to watch Cody out at Journeyman last year, and you talk about
Very
someone
nice.
who's really really into the job, but super, like, you get him on a personal level, super kind of like he's real amped up on stage, and then you get him on a personal level, and he's definitely clicks it back a couple notches, real easy to talk to. So I got to
Uh,
tilt my head to read these. So
yeah, I'm doing the same. I'm discovering the downside of doing the landscape.
I think
Great
that's
idol.
I mean, that's now on the head. Great idols, not so many mentors. Yeah, I mean, there's a difference.
Yeah, there is.
Growing up as a kid, Wayne Gretzky was an idol of mine, but that doesn't mean he mentored me because I sucked at playing hockey. So um, that's why I'm a fireman, and you know,
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you're a fireman. So I think
yeah,
the world would have missed out if you'd have played hockey. So I will
yeah.
say, what do you have coming up for full alarm fire training and for Matt Adkins? Are you going to do more fire talks 2020?
I don't know.
I'm waiting on my schedule to see if I can make it out there. I got to talk to the
Yeah,
missus.
I love Mike, and everything that he does out there is great, and he's shown me nothing but top notch hospitality. And Portland's cool. I like Portland. It's a cool city, but I don't know. I'm not going to go out unless I have something to say. And
Sure.
this past year was kind of weird because when I said I would do it, I really thought I was onto something, and then that just didn't really come through the way I hoped, and then I didn't really care much for the presentation that I delivered, and I don't like that. I'm not going to get up and just talk. So if I feel like I have something to say, then I might go say it, but I'm not going
I
to go up
think
and
you're
teach a
being.
class on firefighting. I don't have anything to offer that someone else isn't already teaching. You know what I mean?
That's fair. I think you're being hard on yourself because I thought it was great, but
Well, I
I
appreciate
think
that, but
I think we're our own worst critics, so I understand that
yeah,
completely.
yeah, yeah.
So, oh,
Um,
awesome, man. I can't, any questions, anything you want to add throw in there? Because I'm wrapping up on you here.
Oh, no. I've had a lot of people asking if we're going to do a South Side conference. We did South Side, would have been February of this year. We wanted to get a bunch of instructors into the area, and the whole thing is that we wanted it to be free to anyone who wanted to come, which
Wow, that's a lofty
it's
goal.
ambitious.
Yes.
It's ambitious. Well, and we did it. We did it through the generosity of some sponsors. Our union sponsored it. The county Volunteer Fire Rescue Association
Dude, that's
co-sponsored.
amazing. Hats off for
Yeah, it was
getting that
awesome.
done, man.
It was awesome. Yeah, we were able to get quite a few, pretty awesome. I mean, Dave. I'm sure you know Dave Mellon. Dave flew in. We had Brian Butler came down from Jersey and did a Fighting Fire and Vacants program, which was awesome. We had Chief Starnes come and do his tactical thermal imaging with the firebox, which that was a huge success.
I haven't got to see the firebox.
Bill Schnakel came down. Oh, it's awesome. It's awesome. Yeah. He's like a wizard when it comes to the tick. So, and then we had a lot of other really good local instructors too. Earl Copes, Leather and Irons did a good VES program.
Nice.
The chief of the department that I volunteer at, Brad, he's also a lieutenant in Roanoke City, came and he did a presentation on volunteership, which applied more to the county, obviously, but it was great. And we didn't charge a dime. We did a raffle. We had a huge turnout of prizes for. I mean, I can't tell you how many people donated awesome prizes to our raffle that we sold raffle tickets for, raffled everything off. We were able to give all the money to the Clark family. So that's
Very
something
nice.
it was cool. It was a good time, and we'd like to be able to do that next year. And the people have been kind of, blowing up our mailboxes. Hey, you guys going to do this again? And if we do, it's going to have to be kind of later. It won't be February. It's going to have to be later in the year. We'd like to find a way to incorporate a hands-on segment that we're not going to be able to make free. Just, we got it. There's a lot of moving pieces with that, but hopefully at a price that's not going to drive people away, because
Sure.
we want
Well,
to be inclusive. We want people to feel
anything I can do social media wise, I'm glad to help and
appreciate
push.
it.
And so
Yeah,
not much monetary wise I can do
No. But we'll
but
do what we
definitely
can.
can spread the word. And so I love what you're doing, Matt. That's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on here. I love your passion for the job, and your presentation, and your
I
rant,
appreciate it.
and your letter that represents all millennials in the fire service.
Oh boy.
Yeah. No, but man, I can't say enough. Thank you for coming on and spending a few 30 minutes here or so talking about the fire service and your passion.
Absolutely.
I hope you will come back and do it again in the future.
Yeah.
And I hope to see
definitely.
you at some conferences. Hope to make it to some out towards the east way if I come east, and that would be awesome. So, and we'll have a beer and you can tell some more stories and bust my gut.
Yeah, that's when I tell my best stories.
Right on.
Sometimes they're like fish tales, maybe. Not always. It depends.
Just a little bit of.
Yeah, you can fact check them with the guys I work with. They'll
Fair
probably
enough.
roll their eyes. But.
Well, thank you, man. Matt Adkins, Fully Alarmed Fire Training. You can find him on Facebook, find him on Instagram. Like I said, I love just scrolling through their page and seeing the things he posts and shares. And I steal them every once in a while and share them. So thank you for taking the time. I appreciate it. Thank you for sharing your passion, man. I can't say that enough. And for everybody out there watching, thanks for joining us. I hope the tones stay silent. Unless it's burning, everybody stay safe out there and have a great Christmas. Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, take care, guys. Thank you. Yep. Later, man.